The day had started like any other on the alien planet, a world filled with colors that shimmered in ways humans could never imagine. The sky glowed with soft golden light, and the air was filled with a gentle hum of energy. In the heart of the capital, the palace of the alien queen stood tall and magnificent, its towers shining like crystals under the sun. Inside, the queen moved gracefully through her halls, her presence commanding yet kind. She was a leader loved by her people, but more than that, she was a mother devoted to her daughter, the young princess. The princess had always been curious and brave. She had a sharp mind and a warm heart, and she shared a close bond with her mother. Every morning they would walk together in the palace gardens, discussing matters of the kingdom and sharing stories about distant worlds. But this day was different. The princess was preparing to leave for a mission to a neighboring sector, a journey she had been trained for her whole life. It was a mission important for the safety of the kingdom, and though the queen understood its necessity, she could not hide the worry that clouded her mind. The queen watched her daughter pack her essentials, checking each item with precision and care. "Be careful, my dear," she said, her voice gentle but carrying a weight of concern. The princess smiled, trying to ease her mother's worry. "I will be fine, mother. I have trained for this. I will return before you even notice my absence." But even as she spoke these words, there was a flicker of unease in her eyes. The queen sensed it, but she knew she could not stop the mission. The princess left the palace in a sleek, glowing spacecraft, waving to the queen and her advisors. The queen stood at the palace balcony, watching the craft disappear into the horizon. Her heart was heavy, and she could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. Hours passed, then days. The mission was supposed to last only a short time, yet no messages came back. The queen consulted the kingdom's most advanced technology, scanning the neighboring sector, sending messages and even personally contacting the leaders of nearby worlds. Yet every attempt failed. There was no trace of the princess. Worry turned into fear, and fear into deep sorrow. The queen walked through the palace corridors, once vibrant with music and laughter, now silent except for the soft echo of her steps. She called for her most trusted advisors, asking them to search every possible location, but even their best efforts yielded nothing. Every hour that passed felt like a lifetime. Citizens began to notice the queen's sadness, and whispers spread through the kingdom. Some tried to offer hope. Others could only watch in silence as their beloved queen struggled with the uncertainty. Nights were the hardest. The queen would sit in her private chamber, staring at the stars. She imagined her daughter, alone on a distant planet facing challenges the queen could not see or control. She thought of the times they had spent together, of her daughter's laughter echoing through the palace gardens, of her small hands holding hers tightly. Tears would fall, but she would not let anyone see them. She had to remain strong for her people, for the kingdom depended on her. Yet, the pain of not knowing where her daughter was or whether she was safe weighed heavily on her heart. In the palace gardens, the queen sometimes walked alone, touching the flowers her daughter loved, feeling as if she could connect with her daughter through them. The wind whispered through the leaves, and the faint hum of the planet's energy felt like a message, a hope that her daughter was still alive. She remembered the princess's courage, her quick thinking, and her ability to adapt to any situation. These memories gave her small moments of comfort, but they could not erase the deep longing she felt. As weeks turned into months, the queen's determination grew stronger. She could not give up. She expanded the search, sending messages farther into space, asking allies and travelers from distant worlds for any information. She held council meetings with her advisors, not only about the kingdom's affairs but also about every possible way to find her daughter. Each day, she walked the palace halls with purpose, even as her heart ached with longing. Her people admired her bravery, but none could fully understand the pain of a mother whose child was missing. The queen also began to write letters to her daughter, sending messages into space in the hope that they might reach her. She wrote about the beauty of the planet, the small events that happened in the palace, and her endless love for her daughter. Though she knew she might never get a reply, writing these letters helped ease her heart for a moment, allowing her to hold on to hope. Every night she would place the letters in a special crystal vessel designed to transmit energy across galaxies, hoping somehow her daughter would receive them. Even as sorrow weighed on her, the queen remained a symbol of strength. She visited hospitals, schools, and meeting halls, speaking to her people with calm assurance. She comforted those who were struggling and reminded them that even in the darkest times, hope could shine like a beacon. Yet, in her private moments, she would sit alone, tears sliding silently down her cheeks as she whispered her daughter's name into the night. The longing in her heart was so intense that it felt as though a piece of her soul was missing. The queen's grief did not go unnoticed by the stars themselves. The planet seemed to respond, shimmering with unusual light, as if the universe itself recognized the bond between a mother and her child. The queen would look up at the sky, hoping that her daughter could somehow see the same stars and know that her mother was thinking of her, praying for her safe return. And so, life in the palace continued. The queen held on to her responsibilities, guided her people, and never lost hope. Every day, every hour, every minute was filled with longing and love. Though the princess was missing, the queen's determination never wavered. Her heart, though heavy, remained full of hope, for she believed that no matter the distance, no matter the danger, her daughter would one day return. Life in the palace felt different now. The absence of the princess was like a shadow that stretched across every corner, touching every hallway, every room, and every garden. The alien queen moved through her daily routines with grace and dignity, yet beneath her calm exterior, a storm of worry and longing raged. She met with her advisors, discussed matters of trade and diplomacy, and oversaw the kingdom's projects with meticulous care, but her thoughts always drifted to her daughter. Every decision she made was influenced by the hope that one day, the princess would return safely. The citizens of the kingdom noticed the queen's sadness, though she never let it show in public. In the council chambers, she spoke with clarity and authority, guiding her people with wisdom and fairness. Her advisors marveled at her strength, but they also saw the subtle signs of her worry. The pauses in her voice, the way her eyes sometimes lingered on empty spaces, as if expecting to see her daughter standing there. The palace staff whispered, quietly among themselves, sharing stories of how the queen would sometimes wander into the gardens at night, staring at the stars with tears in her eyes. The queen's nights were the hardest. In the quiet of her private chamber, she would sit by the large crystalline window, gazing at the distant stars. She imagined her daughter navigating unknown worlds, facing dangers that no one in the kingdom could fully understand. She remembered the princess's bravery, her clever mind, and the kind heart that had always guided her. She thought of the small moments they had shared, the laughter in the gardens, the quiet conversations in the palace library, the way her daughter's hand felt in hers. These memories were bittersweet, bringing both warmth and sorrow. Meanwhile, the princess was alive, though far away from home. She had landed on a distant, harsh planet, full of strange landscapes and creatures that she had never seen before. At first, fear had gripped her heart, but she had quickly realized that survival required courage, intelligence, and careful planning. She found allies among the planet's inhabitants, beings who were different from anyone she had ever met, but who shared her desire to help and protect one another. Together they navigated the dangers of the planet, learning to trust and rely on each other. Back on the home planet, the queen continued her tireless search. She mobilized her most advanced spacecraft, sending teams to every corner of the galaxy, hoping to find a clue, a message, or even a trace of her daughter. Each day brought new reports, but all were either false alarms or distant signals that led nowhere. Still, the queen refused to give up. She held council meetings to plan new strategies, always with the hope that the next mission would bring her daughter home. Her determination inspired her advisors, reminding them that hope was never lost, no matter how long the wait. The queen also began sending messages into the void of space, using the kingdom's most advanced communication devices. She poured her heart into these messages, writing about the beauty of the planet, the daily happenings in the palace, and, most importantly, her endless love for her daughter. She did not know if these messages would ever reach the princess, but sending them brought a sense of comfort and connection, Each night she would place the messages into a crystalline transmitter, watching as they floated off into the galaxy like tiny sparks of hope. As the months passed, the Queen began to notice small signs that her daughter might still be alive. Occasionally, strange signals would appear on her screens, patterns that seemed too deliberate to be random. These signals were faint, distant, and sometimes unclear, but they ignited hope in the Queen's heart. She instructed her best scientists and engineers to analyze the signals, looking for any clues that could lead to the princess. Each new discovery, however small, was celebrated quietly in the palace, a reminder that her daughter's spirit was still out there, fighting and surviving. The Queen also focused on her people, understanding that her kingdom needed stability, even during her personal struggle. She visited schools and hospitals, meeting citizens and listening to their concerns. She reminded them that courage and patience were vital, and that even in times of uncertainty, the bonds of love and community could guide them. The citizens admired her strength, but they also sensed her grief, and many secretly offered prayers and wishes for the princess's safe return. The Queen, though focused on her mission, felt comforted by the loyalty and support of her people. Sometimes, the Queen would walk alone in the palace gardens, touching the flowers that her daughter had once loved. She remembered how the princess would run through the garden paths, laughing as the petals brushed against her skin. She imagined her daughter seeing the same flowers on some distant planet, and she hoped that thought would bring her courage. The wind would stir gently, and the faint hum of the planet's energy seemed to whisper back to her, as if answering her unspoken prayers. These moments, quiet and private, were her solace, a reminder that even in absence, love could create a connection stronger than space itself. The Queen's advisors sometimes suggested that she focus solely on her duties, leaving the search to the rescue teams. But she refused. Her love for her daughter was inseparable from her role as a queen. Every decision she made, every plan she drew, was guided by the hope of reuniting with the princess. She studied maps of distant galaxies, learned about new civilizations, and sought advice from travelers and explorers. She even consulted ancient records of the kingdom, searching for stories of lost travelers who had returned, hoping to learn from their experiences. In the evenings, the Queen would light small lanterns in her private chamber, each one representing a hope, a prayer, or a wish for her daughter's safety. She would sit among them, sometimes whispering words of encouragement, other times simply holding her hands together and sending silent thoughts across the stars. Though the palace around her was grand and beautiful, filled with crystal towers and glowing corridors, these quiet moments reminded her that the most important things were not the treasures of the world, but the safety and happiness of her child. And through it all, the Queen never lost hope. She believed in her daughter's strength, her resilience, and her ability to survive against all odds. Each day was a test of patience, courage, and faith. But the Queen held on to the belief that one day, her daughter would return. She dreamed of the moment they would be reunited, imagining the joy, the tears, and the relief that would flood both their hearts. That hope, fragile yet powerful, kept her moving forward, guiding her actions, and inspiring everyone around her to never give up. Even as time passed and uncertainty lingered, the Queen's love remained unwavering. Her kingdom continued to thrive, guided by her wisdom and compassion, but her heart always carried the quiet ache of longing. She knew that somewhere, in the vast expanse of space, her daughter was alive, learning, growing, and surviving. And she knew that when the time came, their reunion would be the most beautiful moment in the universe, a moment that would heal both their hearts and remind them that love could never be broken, no matter the distance. The months stretched on, each day blending into the next, yet the alien Queen never gave up hope. The missing princess was always in her thoughts, and every decision she made as a ruler was influenced by the desire to bring her daughter home, safely. The kingdom functioned under her steady hand, but the Queen's heart was restless. She had learned to hide her sorrow in public, but the quiet moments revealed a woman deeply worried, longing for her child, and desperate for news. One day the kingdom received a signal unlike any they had seen before. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it carried a pattern, a rhythm that suggested intelligence rather than randomness. The Queen's eyes widened as she studied the data with her advisors. Her heart raced. Could this finally be a message? From her daughter? The team of scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, decoding the signal and analyzing every detail. They traced its origin to a distant, uncharted sector of the galaxy, a place that had long been considered dangerous and difficult to navigate. The Queen felt a surge of hope mixed with anxiety. She called a meeting with her most trusted advisors and warriors. "We must prepare immediately," she said, her voice steady but carrying the weight of urgency. "This signal may be from my daughter. We cannot waste another moment." Plans were drawn, spacecraft were prepared, and the best navigators and soldiers in the kingdom were selected for the rescue mission. Each person chosen understood the importance of the task, knowing that this was more than a mission. It was a journey to reunite a mother and her child. As preparations continued, the Queen could not help but imagine her daughter, wherever she was, feeling alone yet resilient. She thought about the princess's courage, her intelligence, and her ability to survive. The Queen's mind traveled through countless scenarios, imagining the challenges her daughter must have faced and the allies she might have found along the way. The thought of her daughter fighting against unknown dangers both worried her and strengthened her resolve. She knew that no matter what, the princess had the heart to survive. The kingdom buzzed with energy. Citizens watched as spacecraft were loaded with supplies, maps were studied, and messages were sent across the galaxy. The Queen made public announcements, explaining that a search mission was underway. She spoke with calm assurance, but inside, she felt every second of waiting, every moment of uncertainty, as if the distance between her and her daughter could be measured in heartbeats. Her people admired her strength and determination, inspired by her example to never lose hope even in the face of uncertainty. Meanwhile, the princess was learning to navigate the alien world she had landed on. She had encountered creatures both gentle and dangerous, landscapes that were breathtaking and frightening, and challenges that tested her endurance and courage. Yet through every trial, she held on to the thought of her mother, the home she had left behind, and the life she hoped to return to. She found friends among the planet's inhabitants, beings who were different, but who shared her desire to survive and help others. Together they explored the planet, searching for ways to communicate with her home, sending signals that could somehow bridge the vast distance. Back on the home planet, the Queen monitored every faint signal that reached the Phio, a kingdom. Some were false alarms, distant echoes that led nowhere, but others carried patterns she recognized, small signs of life and presence that gave her hope. Each time a signal appeared, her heart leapt. She would study it with her advisors, analyzing every detail, searching for a connection. These signals, though small and often unclear, were proof that her daughter was still out there, fighting, learning, and waiting for the moment to return. The Queen also began preparing for the emotional aspect of the reunion. She knew that the moment her daughter returned would be overwhelming, filled with tears, relief, and joy. She reflected on what she would say, how she would hold her daughter, and how she could ensure the princess felt safe and loved after so many months of uncertainty. In private, she practiced speaking to the stars, sending her thoughts and prayers across space, imagining her daughter hearing her words and feeling the same connection that had always existed between them. As the day of departure approached, the Queen inspected the spacecraft herself. She checked every detail, ensuring that the ship was equipped with supplies, communication devices, and defensive measures. She spoke with the navigators and pilots, emphasizing the importance of caution, precision, and focus. "This is not just a mission of rescue," she said. "It is a journey of hope, love, and trust. Remember that every decision matters, for we are not only traveling through space but through the bond that unites us." Her words inspired confidence in the team, reminding them of the gravity and importance of their mission. When the spacecraft finally lifted off, the Queen stood on the balcony of the palace watching as it disappeared into the vastness of space. Her heart was heavy with worry, yet filled with hope. She whispered her daughter's name into the night, sending her thoughts and prayers along with the ship. The citizens of the kingdom watched in silence, understanding that this journey represented something much greater than a simple mission. It was the pursuit of a bond that distance could not break, a mother's love that could not be shaken. Days turned into nights as the spacecraft traveled through dangerous sectors of the galaxy. The Queen received occasional updates from the crew, each one filled with cautious optimism. They reported strange phenomena, unexpected obstacles, and signs that the princess might be closer than anyone had dared to hope. The Queen clung to each report, allowing herself moments of hope, yet never letting her heart relax completely until her daughter was safely in her arms. The princess, too, sensed change. She had begun to notice subtle shifts in the signals she sent, patterns in the galaxy that seemed to respond to her efforts. It was as if the universe itself was guiding her toward home. She strengthened her resolve, knowing that the path would not be easy, but believing in the bond with her mother that had always been her guiding light. Each step she took, each obstacle she overcame, brought her closer to the moment they would be reunited. And so hope filled the palace and the hearts of all who knew the princess's story. The Queen continued her vigil, watching the skies, analyzing signals and preparing for every possible outcome. She knew that the journey ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and dangers, but her belief in her daughter's strength never wavered. Every day she whispered words of encouragement into the night, sending them across the stars with the knowledge that one day these words would reach her child, guiding her safely home. The signal, faint yet persistent, became a symbol of hope. It reminded the Queen and her people that even in the vast emptiness of space, connections could survive, love could endure, and courage could overcome even the greatest obstacles. The princess's journey was far from over, but with every passing day the distance between them shrank, not in miles or light years, but in the certainty that they would soon be together again. And as the stars shone brighter each night, the Queen held on to the belief that the universe itself was aligning for their reunion. She felt a quiet reassurance that the princess's strength, combined with her own unwavering hope, would overcome any challenge. The day would come when the princess would return and the Queen would finally allow herself to shed tears of relief, joy, and love, a moment that would mark the beginning of a new chapter for them both, filled with healing, understanding, and the unbreakable bond of family. The day the princess was finally found began quietly, with no fanfare, yet it would mark the turning point of the Queen's long and anxious wait. Far across the galaxy, in the remote sector where the princess had been stranded, the rescue team's sensors picked up a faint life signal. It was weak, hidden beneath layers of strange energy fields and alien terrain, but it matched the unique patterns the princess had sent. The Queen received the news at the palace, and for the first time in months, she allowed herself to hope, without restraint. Her heart raced and tears of anticipation filled her eyes, but she kept her composure in front of her advisors. The rescue team moved carefully through the harsh, unknown environment of the distant planet. The terrain was rugged with jagged rocks and vast stretches of barren plains. The air shimmered with energy that seemed alive, and strange creatures occasionally crossed their path, curious but cautious. The princess, relying on her intelligence and survival skills, had avoided the dangers as best as she could, using hidden paths and natural shelters to remain safe. Each day had tested her courage and determination, but her thoughts of home and her mother had kept her strong. When the first members of the rescue team finally laid eyes on her, the princess was weary, yet alert. Her eyes widened in cautious recognition, then softened as the realization dawned that she was finally going to be taken home. She approached them slowly, showing that she trusted their intentions. The team confirmed her identity, and their relief was almost palpable. They had succeeded in locating the missing princess, bringing her one step closer to safety. The team immediately began preparations for the journey back, checking supplies, ensuring her health, and coordinating the safest route home. Back on the home planet, the Queen was pacing in her private chamber. She had been informed that the princess was found, and while she tried to remain composed, her heart could not contain the surge of emotion. She envisioned her daughter, standing on that distant planet, waiting to be carried home. She remembered every moment they had shared, every word of encouragement she had whispered into the stars, and she felt a deep, overwhelming love. Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in months, she allowed herself to imagine holding her daughter again. The journey of the rescue spacecraft toward the home planet was tense but hopeful. Every update brought new relief and occasional worry. The team had to navigate treacherous space currents, asteroid fields, and unstable energy zones. The princess, though exhausted from months of survival, remained calm and observant, offering guidance where possible and keeping her spirits high. She thought constantly of her mother, imagining the moment they would be reunited, and this thought fueled her perseverance. When the rescue team entered the home planet's atmosphere, the palace had already begun preparations for the reunion. Citizens gathered quietly near the palace, sensing that something extraordinary was about to happen. The queen waited on the balcony, her heart pounding, her hands clasped tightly in anticipation. The palace staff and advisors kept their distance, giving the queen the private space she needed while maintaining readiness to assist the princess as soon as she arrived. The golden light of the planet's twin suns bathed the palace in warmth, and for a moment, it seemed as if the universe itself was celebrating the moment to come. Finally, the spacecraft landed in the palace courtyard. The princess stepped out, slowly, her eyes scanning the familiar landscape, and then they fell upon her mother. The queen stood frozen for a heartbeat, disbelief and overwhelming emotion crossing her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she called out her daughter's name. The princess ran, her legs moving as fast as they could carry her, and leaped into her mother's arms. The embrace was tight, unbroken, and full of the love that had survived months of distance and uncertainty. The queen held her daughter close, her tears soaking the princess's shoulders, whispering words of relief and love over and over again. The citizens watched quietly, many with tears of their own, as the queen and princess reunited. The sight of the queen's tears falling freely for the first time in months touched everyone present. They could feel the depth of her love and the intensity of the bond that no distance, no danger, and no time could weaken. The palace gardens seemed brighter, the air warmer, and even the wind carried a gentle hum that felt like a blessing. The reunion was not just a personal moment, but a celebration for the entire kingdom, a reminder of the power of hope, love, and resilience. Once the initial embrace ended, the queen led her daughter into the palace, continuing to hold her hand as they walked. They spoke softly, sharing stories and experiences, laughter and tears mingling together. The princess recounted her adventures, the challenges she had faced, the creatures she had met, and the allies who had helped her survive. The queen listened, intently, her heart swelling with pride and relief. She offered comfort for the hardships her daughter had endured, and her words were full of admiration for her courage and intelligence. In the days following the reunion, the queen and princess spent as much time together as possible. They walked through the palace gardens, revisiting places that held memories and creating new ones to replace the months of absence. The queen shared details of the kingdom's life while her daughter was away, and the princess shared stories of the planet she had encountered, painting vivid pictures of the distant worlds she had survived in. Their bond, already strong, grew even deeper, filled with understanding, trust, and the joy of being together again. The palace itself seemed to come alive with the return of the princess. The halls echoed with laughter once more. The gardens blossomed under the care of their shared attention, and even the air seemed charged with renewed energy. Citizens came to see the reunited mother and daughter, offering congratulations and gifts, but the queen and princess focused only on each other. They knew that the journey had been long and difficult, and that the true reward was simply being together, safe and whole. As night fell, the queen and princess stood on the balcony once more, looking at the stars. The golden light of the twin suns had faded, replaced by the gentle glow of distant constellations. The queen held her daughter's hand and whispered words of love, gratitude, and relief. The princess, in turn, held her mother's hand tightly, knowing that no matter where She went in the universe, this bond would remain unbroken. Together they felt the connection that had carried them through months of separation, a connection that was stronger than any distance, any danger, or any challenge. And in that quiet moment, tears still falling from the Queen's eyes, both mother and daughter understood something profound. Love had guided them through the darkest times. Hope had given them strength, and courage had carried them home. The princess had returned, and with her, the joy, relief, and warmth that had been missing from the palace for so long. The kingdom too felt the change, sensing that the most important bond of all, between a mother and her child, had been restored, stronger than ever. After the princess returned, life in the palace gradually began to feel complete again. The empty spaces that had once echoed with silence were now filled with laughter, conversation, and the gentle hum of family togetherness. The alien queen, whose tears had fallen so freely upon seeing her daughter, now felt a deep sense of peace. Though the memory of those long months apart remained, it was tempered by the joy of having her daughter safely back in her arms. The bond between them, tested by distance, fear, and uncertainty, had grown stronger than ever. The princess, too, was filled with relief and wonder. She had faced countless challenges in the far reaches of space, learning about herself, her resilience, and her courage. But the moment she stepped back into the palace, she realized that the most powerful force in the universe was not the vast stars or the strange creatures she had met. It was the love she shared with her mother. Each embrace, each word, each glance carried reassurance and healing, and the princess felt safe in a way she had not known for many months. The queen and princess spent their days walking through the palace gardens, talking about the events that had taken place while they were apart. The princess described the alien world she had visited, the creatures she had encountered, and the friends who had helped her survive. Her stories were filled with excitement, fear, and wonder, and the queen listened with rapt attention, marveling at her daughter's bravery. In turn, the queen shared news of the kingdom, recounting the ways the people had worked together, cared for each other, and maintained hope during the princess's absence. As the days passed, the princess gradually reintegrated into life at the palace. She visited schools, hospitals, and other places in the kingdom, sharing her experiences with those who had followed her journey with worry and hope. Her courage and determination inspired everyone she met, reminding them that challenges could be faced with strength and resilience. The queen watched proudly as her daughter spoke to the citizens, seeing the same heart and intelligence that had always made her proud, now strengthened by the trials she had endured. The queen also took steps to ensure that her kingdom would be better prepared for any future challenges. She met with advisors, engineers, and scholars, discussing ways to protect her people and improve communication across distant regions. The princess, with her first-hand experiences in unknown worlds, contributed valuable insights. Together, mother and daughter worked side by side, combining wisdom, courage, and creativity to strengthen their home. Their partnership, born of love and necessity, became a symbol of hope and resilience for the entire kingdom. Even in the quiet moments, the queen and princess found comfort in each other's presence. They often sat together on the palace balcony at night, looking at the stars. The same stars that had once carried messages of longing now shone as reminders of the bond that had brought them through separation. They held hands, spoke softly, and sometimes simply sat in silence, feeling the reassurance of being together again. These moments, filled with love and gratitude, became the foundation for healing the months of worry and fear that had weighed so heavily on both of them. The kingdom itself seemed to reflect this renewed energy. Citizens moved about with a sense of optimism and peace, inspired by the story of the princess's survival and the queen's unwavering hope. Festivals were held in celebration of her return, and the palace became a center of joy and learning. Children listened to tales of bravery, resilience, and the power of love, while adults reflected on the lessons of patience, hope, and courage. The return of the princess was not just a personal victory, but a shared triumph for all who had believed in her safety. In private moments, the queen would still feel a quiet ache when thinking about the months her daughter had been gone. But these thoughts no longer brought fear or despair. They were reminders of the strength that had carried them both through hardship. She reflected on how love, hope, and determination had guided them, and she felt proud of her daughters' courage as well as her own resilience as a mother and leader. These reflections deepened her appreciation for every moment spent with her daughter, and she vowed to cherish each day from now on. The princess, for her part, began to rebuild routines that had been interrupted by her long absence. She practiced her skills, learned new knowledge from scholars, and participated in governance alongside her mother. She also nurtured the friendships she had formed during her journey, finding ways to connect distant worlds with her home planet, sharing knowledge and building alliances. The experience had matured her, making her not only brave but wise, compassionate, and thoughtful in ways she had never imagined. Together, the queen and princess began planning for the future. They imagined a kingdom that could flourish even in the face of uncertainty, a home where courage, love, and community could guide their people. They encouraged citizens to explore, to learn, and to face challenges with confidence, using the story of the princess's journey as inspiration. Their shared vision created a sense of purpose and unity, strengthening the bonds between family, citizens, and even the distant worlds that had once been unknown and mysterious. Over time, the palace once again became a place of warmth and life. The laughter of the princess, the gentle wisdom of the queen, and the voices of citizens all blended together in harmony. The gardens bloomed more vibrantly than ever, reflecting the happiness and renewal within the palace walls. The queen watched her daughter grow, thrive, and take her place as a confident leader, knowing that their bond had been tested and proven unbreakable. At night, when the stars shone brightly across the sky, the queen and princess would sit together and speak of the universe, the lessons they had learned, and the strength that comes from love and hope. The stars had once carried messages of worry and longing, but now they shone as symbols of connection, courage, and possibility. Mother and daughter knew that no distance could weaken their bond, and no challenge could diminish their love. They were together, and that was enough. In the end, the return of the princess marked more than just the reunion of two individuals. It represented the power of hope to overcome fear, the strength of love to bridge distance, and the courage of the human or alien heart to survive against all odds. The queen's tears had fallen not only out of relief, but out of gratitude for the resilience, courage, and love that had guided them both home. The kingdom, strengthened by their example, thrived in harmony, and the story of their journey became a legend that would inspire generations to come. The queen and princess, side by side, continued to lead, nurture, and protect their kingdom. Their bond, tested by time and distance, remained unbreakable. Together they faced the future with hope, strength, and joy, knowing that nothing could ever separate them again. And in the quiet moments, when they simply held hands and gazed at the stars, they felt the unspoken truth that love, patience, and courage could conquer even the greatest challenges, guiding them toward a bright and peaceful future.